All right, guys, have you ever had that temptation to say the same thing as what the Schwarzenegger said in Terminator? Nice bike. Yeah, that's my neighbour's just rolled up on one 69 plate, whatever it is, I don't know. Looks good, it's matte black. Yeah, so I've just had disturbances today. If it hasn't been the ice cream man, then it's been Mr. Man with his Queen remix blaring out, and yeah, I find it really hard to record a video in this car, so I've shut the door, wound up the windows, and yeah, I'm going to get cooked in here because it's quite warm today. But however, we will persist. Yep. So remember the last mechanical video, I was talking about the pulley at the front of the vehicle, okay, chattering. Yes, well, I've replaced it, okay, with a Corteco. I know this brand because they do seals and all sorts like that, pretty good. And just out of interest, look at this. You see this here? It says don't use hammers here, but use a bigger one. Yeah, that's quite interesting. I think that means use soft hammers and no levers, and use a proper torque wrench and all that sort of business. Which, yeah, so I've replaced this. Now, if you were in a stuck, you could actually weld this up to get you out of trouble if needs be. But this type of item is balanced, okay? There's rubber in here. If you introduce heat, what happens? It will start to degrade. And also you can see the drillings here and here. This is balanced from the factory, okay? Because you need balanced components. Anything that's rotary needs to be balanced, flywheel or pulleys, okay? So yeah, we've changed it, and that was expensive. But before I got round to actually getting it on the vehicle, I could hear another noise, and it started to sound like a dry bearing, okay? I didn't have the time to record it. I didn't actually have a camera on me, and I thought, actually, better just check this. It's not the idler for the auxiliary belts. If they actually get dry, they disappear because they overheat, and then it collapses and they're gone. Yeah, so I took the belt off and had a listen, and it was behind the timing case front cover. Oh, okay. Now, I don't know if you're conversant with timing belts or not. They use idlers inside for the timing belt, and of course they have bearings on them. Yeah, doesn't sound bad. This one's okay. This one's the adjuster, or the tensioner, should I say, for the belt. However, I did find something interesting, which I will tell you about, yeah? But first of all, I'll let you know that this vehicle's about 115,000 miles. And in November 2015, this actually had a timing belt fitted at 82,000 miles, which is about right for this vehicle. Now, there were issues with the HDI engine, the 1.4, where they were recommending to change the timing belt at least 75,000 miles, yeah. And it also says in the service manual guide, it does actually mention the timing belt here as well. Normal running conditions and severe conditions, okay? So it recommends doing the belt about 80,000 miles. So that is, okay, we'll follow that maintenance schedule. Yeah, and that was done just right, okay? So we get down the road, and then we're getting noises from it. Okay, and that was a one. So we went back to the receipt to have a look at it. And yes, they had indeed changed the motor kit at £112, and they charged us 15 pence each for cable ties, yeah? When I say us, this was actually my wife's car. I authorised the replacement of the belt, okay? Now, that's all they did with it. The total cost was £323. Now, you wonder why I didn't do it. It's because I was on night shift at the time, didn't have the time, so we put it into Duff Morgan, actually, the Seat, Peugeot and Citroen garage, yeah. And they did a good job, and it's okay, and it was running fine. But yeah, I got the noise, and what it turned out to be, once we dove into it, wasn't actually the rollers. It was this thing here. Yeah, you know what that is? That's the water pump, right? You probably can't hear it, but the bearing's starting to go. It's not leaking fuel. It's not leaking any type of coolant at all, although she's starting to get a bit loose, okay? So this was the culprit. Now, you'd have thought, well, when they did the timing belt, they would have done the water pump. Talking to Citroen, I actually went and had a word with a guy there. He said, well, we don't do it if they're serviceable. And at the time, that was reasonable. At 82,000 miles, that was okay. So they didn't replace it. But it got to this point that it's become unreliable, has become noisy. And of course, the first thing you're going to do is go, right, timing belt, let's get it sorted, yeah? So the timing belt itself is here, okay, and it's in good condition. You can see that the teeth are okay, but there was a little bit of rust underneath there, a bit suspicious. This is why I dug into it, okay. Now, this is actually a Dayco belt, and the kit that I bought also is Dayco, yeah. Now, with timing belts, if you run a vehicle with a timing belt on, Dayco is the timing belt people, and Gates is the auxiliary belt type people, okay. The Gates do timing belt kits as well, which are okay, but I always trust Dayco because that seems to be standard kit on most vehicles anyway. Yeah, it's OEM stuff, yeah. So there's actually quite a lot of details with this. Now, doing the timing belt, I've changed the water pump obviously because it's there, and I'm sorry I didn't get any video footage of it because I was in a little bit of a rush. I had to do it then and there. The workshop manual simply says you don't need a timing pin kit. All you need is 2 drills, yeah, which is an 8mm drill for locking off the camshaft and a 5mm drill for locking off the crankshaft. Yeah, once you've got those locked off, you put your belt on. And the fuel pump itself is a high pressure pump. It doesn't need to be timed up critically like rotary pumps would have been at one time. Yeah, so you can get it somewhere near, and as you put the belt on, the tension on it actually pulls it round just a little bit. So yeah, we've done that. And what I found was the engine tone changed a little bit. I rechecked the timing to make sure it was okay. That was clean. And now I'd had a misfire on this engine as well, just a lumping every now and then, and that's gone. And what I can hear is a cack, 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 cack within the diesel combustion. I know it's combusting okay, yeah. And yes, I have sat here for a while with this vehicle listening to it, yeah, because timing belts, it's always a little bit of an arse nipping time when it's like, have I got that right? Yeah, but I checked it, double checked it, made sure I went through the process of, yeah. I haven't filmed it to show you how to do a timing belt because there's so many variants of engines, and there's so many variants the way things are set up, it's almost impossible to do. If you're not competent with it, get somebody else to do yours at the right time, yeah. And you should always check when your timing belt should be done. How I consider anything is always look at it in severe running conditions rather than having it as normal conditions, unless of course you are strapped for cash, then you can push it a little bit further. But if you let it go too long, timing belts can slip or they can break, and if they do, what happens, because the valves run so close to the pistons on a diesel engine, that if the belt breaks and the camshaft and the crankshaft are not timed up, they will smack the valves, bend the valves, and that is game over basically. It will also happen on petrol engines as well, even though you do get a wider combustion space with those. If the crank's going too fast and the valves are sticking out, bang, they can hit, and that's it, game over, bent valves, which means head off and a repair. Yeah, catastrophic engine failure, right? So never ever ignore the timing belt service procedure or the time that it needs to be done, because that is the one thing that will be instantaneous. So guys, I just looked at the old service record, and it advised at 39,000 miles, which is 2011, to do replace the timing belt from the independent specialist that was servicing the vehicle, yeah. And after then, it says it hasn't been done. 43,000 miles after then, there is no record, because obviously the owner sold the vehicle, yeah. But looking at the service recommendations to be carried out every 2 or 5 years, the bottom right hand corner, that does say C3 or C5 petrol or indirect injection diesels every 48,000 miles for a timing belt change, HDI every 80,000 miles, and C3 HDI every 120,000 miles, which it wouldn't have done that. So yeah, initially it was done at 80,000 miles first timing belt change, which would be about right, and we were advised to do that. Yeah, it would have never have reached to 120,000 miles. But 5 years later, it's had another timing belt change, but this time with the water pump. Other things like head gasket, you get warnings with, don't you? If you have something not quite right, or it's not running right, it can degrade over a period of time. But a timing belt, it gives you no grace whatsoever, and they usually slip when you go to an MOT station and rev the nuts off it to get an emissions test. Well, in the UK anyway. Yep. So in summary, basically, this this belt, over a short period of time, we didn't have the water pump change, which caused the problem, but also this had stretched a little bit, just a little bit, so it wasn't running the same as what it is now. We've got a new belt on there, it's under tension, and it is running right. The cam and the crank are running in sync. With a stretch belt, they can run out of sync every other turn. Yeah, so the crank goes around twice to one of the camshafts, so 4 times on the crank, 2 times on the cam, and it will then maybe give you a little bit of a combustion problem. Now I found that it has actually cured something in here which I was looking for, which is a little bit of lumpy running. 4-cylinder engines anyway don't run smoothly. You'll have to remember that. 5, 6 and 8, yes, then they're starting to run better, because they're firing not every 4 but every 5, every 6, which means the rotation of the crankshaft is much smoother. Okay, 4 cylinders are lumpy anyway. 3 cylinders are even worse, aren't they? Yeah, so yeah, they try all sorts of things to get 4 cylinders to run properly, but never mind. So rule of thumb and the lesson learned here, okay, I do things immediately. If I hear something that's critical that might be failing, investigate it immediately, get it rectified straight away, and don't wait for it to develop, because while you're waiting for it to develop, it might be okay for a long period of time, but if you've got your ear out and you think, right, okay, dry bearing noise, yeah, need to get it done, checked out straight away without fail. It might be something simple, but with a lot of DAF trucks, they have idlers on the front for the auxiliary belt. If one of those goes dry, gets hot, that will disappear, the belt gets thrown off, then you've got breakdown time, because somebody's got to come out and repair all that, or in your case, you probably want to repair it yourself, wouldn't you, on your car? Yeah. So you never ignore things, okay? So that was my Monday taken up, yeah? So she's running quite nicely now. I'm quite happy with the sound of it, and of course, the lumping has gone out of the engine, which is like, boom, okay, that's 2 problems solved in one. But it did cost me £200, yeah? The water pump, well, okay, I don't recognise that name, but you might do, and hopefully that will be okay. But those components, along with starter motors and alternators, for instance, they may give you no warning of failure, or they might do. They're an unknown service life with any engine. They're an unknown service life. So you have to regularly check your vehicle, do your driver's checks, and listen to make sure that everything's okay on them, okay? It makes a big difference between failing on the road and being okay to get to where you need to, and back again, and there and back again. Or especially if you have a partner who's driving a vehicle and you're not sure, you should always do regular checks to make sure that they're not going to break down. Yeah, because it then consumes your time to go out and help them, or money, which you have to work hard to earn, to get somebody else to rectify the problem. So it's always the case in the UK, a stitch in time saves 9. Yeah, and if you know this one, obviously it's an old saying, is repair your clothes with just 1 stitch. That saves it from ripping further and having to do more work. And that's so relevant with motor vehicles, whether it's leaks or whether it's unusual noises. You have to get to the bottom of it straight away, even if it does mean throwing some money at it, yeah, because it might just save you a lot more. So that is it, guys. That's the video. I hope you heed my warnings of what I'm saying. For me, I know this is an old vehicle, and it will require more and more attention as it gets older. So you get on top of something else happens, you go through the whole maintenance process, and it all starts again over and over and over again. They're very demanding, motor vehicles, especially if you're running high mileages on them. Yeah, so that's it, guys. I shall see you in the next video. Take care.